Interviewing for a job is already really traumatic and so nerve-wracking. Now, when you are applying and interviewing for a job when you're changing careers or switching industries, it can be even more daunting and really challenging. But not to worry, by the end of this video, you're gonna have 5 huge tips so that you can be better prepared for any interview that you have when you are changing careers. And all of these tips I've personally followed myself when I changed careers twice. And make sure you stay until the very end of the video because the 5th tip that I'm going to give you will make the biggest difference for changing careers. And speaking from personal experience, it made the biggest difference for me in helping me find a job that I truly, truly love. And it was a job that I actually never thought of. As you know, on this channel, I've got a whole playlist purely dedicated to helping people pass and ace their next interview. But when you're thinking about changing careers, not all of these tips and tricks are going to be directly applicable because you may not match 100% of the job description. And so you're going to have to think about other creative ways where you can really impress your interviewers so that you can get this job that you really, really want. And you can apply these interview tips when you're changing careers externally outside of your company, or even if you're trying to change internally as well. And the very first tip when you are changing careers and trying to interview is to get rid of your imposter syndrome. Be confident. If they have taken the time to interview you for a job, whether you applied online or you were referred, you need to remember that they want to talk to you. Even if you may not match 100% of the job description because you're changing careers, they still wanted to talk to you and interview you. And if they didn't think you had a chance of getting the job, why would they want to spend 30 minutes all the way up to an hour to talk to somebody that they were never going to hire to begin with, right? So make sure you check your imposter syndrome and get confident when you're going into that interview because they actually want to hire you. Now, tip number 2 for interviewing when you're trying to do a career switch is to know your strengths and weaknesses very, very well. For example, when you are asked the question, tell me about yourself, you need to know what your strengths are for the position so that you can draw the hiring manager or recruiter's attention to those specific skill sets so that they can focus on your transferable skills and your strengths. So let's say you work in finance and you're applying for a marketing position. In your answer, you need to draw their attention to your strengths, like your analytical capabilities and how you're really strong and savvy with data, and how that will make you a huge and valuable asset to the team because you will be able to bring that analytical skill set and be comfortable with data and Excel and pulling reports using SQL. That is a skill that may be lacking on their marketing team. And remember, marketing these days, especially at tech companies or if you do any digital marketing roles, is highly data-based and data-driven because they want to make sure that they're putting their ad spend in something that's going to give them the best ROI. Now, if you're applying for a role that's a little bit more technical and you don't have the technical skill set quite yet, then you're going to want to draw their attention to another one of your strengths or transferable skills. So let's take this example again of someone in finance trying to apply to marketing. Maybe you're going to want to talk about how one of your strengths is that you work in finance, but you actually support the digital marketing team. You are their financial analyst. And so you, over the last 2 years, have gotten to build really strong connections with key players in the marketing team. Some of them have even started to coach and mentor you on the side. You've even done some small side projects where you can help out with the marketing team outside of your day-to-day responsibilities. Or maybe you have actually provided some recommendations to the marketing team based on some of the collaborative projects that you've done together by working cross-functionally. Now, the second part of the equation is to know what your weaknesses are. Now, I can tell you from personal experience that if you have a potential skill gap or there is a difference between the role that you do now and the role that you eventually want to do, they are going to ask you, why should we hire you if you don't know how to do this specific skill, which is required for this role? Now, already knowing that you don't have this and this may be a potential weakness for you, you can prepare better for this question during your interview. To address these concerns, you're going to want to talk about how you're working to gain this skill right now through a certification course or by your mentor or by doing extra projects, or you're going to want to dive deeper into that skill and ask them, why is that skill required? Or how often are they going to be using this specific skill or tool? Is it something that could be easily learned on the job? Or maybe you give them an example of a time when you had to learn something else very, very quickly at your job and how you were able to make a huge impact even though you didn't know how to do something right away, but you caught on and learned very, very quickly, which then will give them the confidence that they can hire you and you'll be able to get trained on the job. Now, the third interviewing tip when you are changing careers is to know your why. Right? I can tell you from personal experience, again, that I've probably done over 20 interviews when I was trying to change careers and become a recruiter, is the number one question I was always asked without fail is, why do you want this position? Why are you trying to change careers? That is the number one question that I got asked, and so you need to have a way better answer than, well, I mean, I've been talking to my friends and they said that I'd be really good at this job. Or, well, I was reading up online and I read the job description and it really called to me and I know that I can really help your company. The better way to answer this question is to show off all of the in-depth research that you've done about this position and how you know all the ins and outs of this role. Basically, you need to tell them that you know exactly what is required and what a day-to-day about this position, and you learned all of this information by talking to people that maybe work in their company. And here is when it's appropriate to name drop some of the people that you've contacted who have given you insights as to what this role would be about. And then you need to address any potential concerns they may have by telling them how your skills are transferable as to why you actually are qualified for this role. You need to tell them that you eventually realize that the skills that you currently have right now in your job are very similar to what they require in this position, and you are so excited to add value for their company or for their team by taking this position but bringing a different type of perspective. Now, the fourth thing you need to keep in mind when you're interviewing and switching careers is that you should never, ever lie. Do not say that you know how to do a skill or complete a task that you actually don't know how to do, especially if it's critical for the role. Because even if you were to fool this interviewer or you were able to even get this job, what are you going to do? They're going to start paying you to do a job that you actually don't know how to do, and you're going to be set up for failure. And what you're going to end up doing is not performing well. Maybe you'll get put on a performance improvement plan, or worse, you'll get fired. And everyone that you work with, your coworkers and your manager and your boss, they're all going to hate working with you, and they're never going to give you a positive referral, not at their company. And if they go and work for another company, if they get asked about you, then they're only going to say really negative things. So this is just going to build a very bad personal brand for you, even if you do get this job that you really want. You want to get a job that you can actually be successful in and do well. You're probably thinking, well, if they ask me if I don't know how to do something, then they'll never hire me for this position. And sometimes that is okay. If truly there is a skill that you must know how to do, but you don't know how to do it, then right now, unfortunately, you just aren't ready to make that career move. And that's okay, because now you got some really constructive feedback and you can now go out and go get that specific skill. You know exactly what it is that you need to learn. You can do it by volunteering, by doing side projects, by learning online, by getting somebody to coach and mentor you. And then once you get that skill set, you'll be able to go back into that interview way more confident, and you'll get a job that you can truly be successful in. Now, make sure that if they ask you, hey, do you know how to do this? Because I'm not hiring you if you don't know how to do it. Make sure you ask some follow-up questions like, oh, really, I'm just curious, how often is someone going to need to know how to do this? Or how important is this in this specific position? Or is this something, in your opinion, that you feel could be learned on the job? Sometimes you can actually draw that out of your interviewer and find out that a certain skill that they require truly isn't required. And maybe you've actually done something that's very similar. Maybe it doesn't have the same name, or you haven't used the exact same technology, but you've done something extremely similar, and then you can talk about something like that. Once you get them to explain exactly what that specific skill or thing may be, then you may be able to draw other parallels to your existing experience. And the fifth, final, and most important, and I believe the most impactful interviewing tip you can have when you are changing careers is that you need to ask for feedback. And I can tell you that this made a huge difference in my career, because I ended up finding a job that I totally love and I never thought about doing. But I wouldn't have figured it out if I didn't ask for feedback. So if you feel like your interview is not going well and there's nothing you can do to save it, and you feel like it's just going straight down and you're probably going to get rejected, then just stop the interview right there and just say, hey, I have a feeling that I'm probably not qualified for this role right now, but is there any other position that you think I would be really good at? Or you can even ask them, is there another role that you think I should probably try and get before I'm qualified for this position? Or is there another company that you guys typically hire from where I can get this experience and then reapply in a few years? When I was trying to become an executive coach, which was my very first goal when I was trying to change careers, I ended up talking to someone who recommended that I actually try and do executive recruiting, because there's a very similar skill set and I would still get to be passionate about my work and impact people in a very similar way, even though it doesn't have the same job title. And so that's how I discovered the world of recruiting, and I never even thought about that as a career if I didn't ask for feedback. And it was the biggest difference in my career switch, because I was actually able to find a job that I love, that I was actually qualified for, that I could actually get, which allowed me to chase and pursue my dreams. All right, so if you are interviewing and changing careers or industries, I hope these 5 tips really help you. And if you want more advice, or you want to work with someone to help you plan out your career switch, make sure you sign up for a free coaching session down below at CareerShakers.com. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.